What's up, YouTube? This is Greg Ferris of MyoBrain, and what you're about to see after this intro is a very cool systemization of flexible dieting adherence that I pretty much stole from Eric Helms after listening to his online fitness summit presentation. It actually wasn't the main topic of his presentation at all. He kind of just mentioned it in passing, but as he said that, it was a very kind of minor 1-minute answer he gave to a question, and then people just kind of went off and asked other questions. But as he said that, I was like, holy shit, I don't know if Eric knows how big of a deal this possibly could be to the kind of flexible dieting community. So no credit is be given towards me for this kind of idea or concept. I think it's really cool. Maybe it's just like overly simplistic and not that big of a deal. But why I think this 3-tier system, which you're about to see after this little annoying intro, is really important, because I think a lot of people still have problems when they first kind of move into flexible dieting. You know, most people kind of go into flexible dieting from a clean eating background, right? So they had this neurotic behavior about what was good, what was bad, what was healthy, what was unhealthy. You know, they need to eat X many times per day or whatever their neurotic behavior was. A lot of people just shift that neurotic behavior to now macros, right? I call it like the magic macros, where people think that there's this magical formula that's going to get you where you need to be, that you need exactly 400 grams of carbohydrates to get to your training goals or whatever. So again, it just shifts their focus. They still become really neurotic. And even for people who were kind of this more middle ground, maybe they weren't a very clean eater, they just kind of ate intuitively to start with, they learn about macros, they learn about flexible dieting. Those two things kind of go hand in hand. What can happen is neuroticism can actually form. They can actually form those neurotic behaviors from nothing, because again, they put these macros on a pedestal. So this systemization, whatever that word is, of diet adherence is very, very beneficial to let you know it's not about being on or off your diet. And that's the beautiful thing about it, because people always forget the actual term flexible dieting. They always just kind of hear, I'm counting my macros, I'm doing this flexible dieting thing, but I need to hit 44 grams of protein. You know, that doesn't sound very flexible to me, right? If you can't go eat out, it doesn't sound very flexible. If you can't have a piece of cheesecake, you don't know how much grams of fat in it, it doesn't sound very flexible, right? So this diet adherence tier system allows you kind of pick where you want to be in this tier based on the time of the year, based on, you know, what day it is, how accurate you've been in the past, how serious your goals are, all of those things. And you can kind of judge, you know, lay out your year or lay out your week or whatever, and say, like, where do I kind of want to be in this range? You know, am I trying to lose 30 pounds? I probably need to be up here. Am I, you know, just finished a meet and I want to chill out a little bit and not be focused on food? Maybe I want to be in the lower range, right? So hopefully you guys find this informative. Hopefully you find this cool. Super big props to Eric Helms for putting this out, I guess, for making up this idea. I'm assuming he came up with it, but if not, thank you to whoever gave Eric Helms this idea. But I really appreciate it. It's been really helpful to my clients already so far today. Again, it's kind of setting up our mind psychologically for not feeling on or off our diet, which can still happen with a flexible diet. So this tier, I don't want to say systemization again, this tier system can help you understand it's okay to not be on your macros all the time. All right, guys, let's get into the chart. So, as I mentioned, it's titled Diet Adherence 3-Tier System, and I'm being pretty transparent here and say that this is pretty much stolen from Eric Helms. I'm sure he doesn't mind. But so, getting into it, these terms that I actually scratched out here were best, better, and good. And those are actually the terms that Eric used, but I'll kind of explain why I think that can be a little bit short-sighted when we fit this in with the context of your goal, right? So essentially what I want you to think about is that 1 is the most accurate of these 3 plus. They get less accurate as you go down. So 2 is less accurate than 1. 3 is, of course, less accurate than 2 and 1. Okay, so the probably most accurate way you can manage your nutrition, at least on a sane long-term basis, is to stay within your strict macronutrient ranges. I say strict because depending on who you are, who your coach is, whatever, you may be within 5 grams or 25 grams within a macronutrient. So say something like I would recommend for people, even if you're pretty serious, like in contest prep, usually have a 5 gram either way range of fat. So if you were on like 55 grams of fat, it would be between 50 and 60. That would be your range. Usually carbs and protein I'm more flexible with. So maybe a 25 gram range there. So maybe if it was like 300 to 325 for carb, protein could be 175 to 200, okay? That would be probably the most accurate way you can track nutrition. Again, this is assuming majority of your food is weighed. You're not eating out 1 or 2 times a day. You're not eyeballing a lot of stuff. This would be the most accurate, okay? Now going down to the second tier here, we have minimum protein hit with plus or minus 100 calories within your range, okay? So I'll take me for example. Say if I'm trying to maintain my weight right now, maybe around 3,300 calories, my range would be between 32 and 34, just plus or minus 100 of that. And then the minimum protein for about 175 body weight, I would say about 150, slightly under 1 gram per pound as a bare minimum, okay? This wouldn't be as accurate or probably as good in most cases as number 1, but still pretty damn good. And moving on to 3, within your calorie range. So here, we're kind of throwing out the minimum protein amount out. So my goal for this would be between 32 and 3,400 calories. If I did that for that day, I'd be in this kind of 3 system. And then here I have what I call 3+. Eric kind of touched upon this, but I don't want to put words in his mouth, so I'm not going to say he said this exactly, but I kind of adapted this and added to it. It's kind of intuitive eating, and I know that's kind of a grayish word because some people would be like, oh, just go eat pizzas or whatever. But I mean probably people who are more in touch with like their hunger signals. They have a healthy relationship with food. They don't emotionally eat. They don't binge eat and stuff like that. I would consider myself a pretty good intuitive eater. It comes to fat loss. I'm not a good intuitive eater for muscle gain because I just will not eat enough if I'm not tracking. That's actually what originally got me to tracking my food intake. I could not gain weight. I was a hard gainer, right? But I have down here, you're eyeballing more of your portions. I have down kind of using the scale as a gauge. Like if my weight's not moving up, I need to have more Ben and Jerry's. If the scale is moving up, I'm trying to lose weight, I need to have less Ben and Jerry's. I also have clothes down there as well, like how my t-shirts are feeling, how my pants are fitting, stuff like that, as a way to gauge my progress, okay? So, what I have there kind of also squared off, if I can read that, is the goal is to find balance within the system. This board's a little too big for my little iPad. But right down here, find balance within the system. So what I mean by that, I mentioned in kind of the intro of this video, a lot of us, when we start off with flexible dieting, have the idea that this is where we have to be. We have to be here all the time. One is called flexible dieting. You're within your macro ranges. If you're a little bit over, you're off your diet, right? But that's kind of, again, getting to that neurotic behavior. What we need to understand to adhere to our diets better and kind of just be better psychologically over the long term is that it's perfectly okay and sometimes even ideal to be somewhere in these ranges, these 2 to 3 to even 3+ range, depending on the severity of our goals, depending on what's going on. Is there a wedding? Are you in grad school? Are you going out to Valentine's Day, which is last weekend, right? There's a whole host of ways you can kind of be in this grayish diet, grayish accuracy, adherence of your diet, and not feel off and not feel bad about it, not feel like you need to give up now or start over or whatever. Because again, if you've listened to anything that I've said in the past 3 years, you know that energy balance, number 3 here, is the main player of everything, right? So before protein, before whatever, it's how much food you're eating and how much you're expending through activity and just living, right? So if we start off with that, which I would say a lot of flexible dieters with the 3 would say like that's off their diet. If they're off their protein a little bit, if their fat and carbs a little bit iffy, they would feel off their diet. But the goal here, and I kind of presented just a very simplistic model to my clients today, if you're not a in season, so like preparing for a physique show, a figure show, a bodybuilding show, something like that, probably the goal is to not be in this one range all the time. If you're in this one range 365, you're probably having to limit other things in your life. You're having to limit your social life. You're having to limit your eating out. That's just probably not worth it to always be in this one range, okay? So I kind of adapted a very simple model that, like, probably a theoretical max for most people is 50% in this range. I can't write upside down, but 50% in this first range throughout the year, 25% in this range throughout the year, and then probably 25% somewhere in here. And again, that's very highly specific on your goals. If I'm being completely blunt with people, over the past year, since I did an internship at Texas Tech, I was working like 50 to 60 hours a week, and then now starting grad school, just having to travel more, having more obligations with business and with school and with work and all of these other things. I've almost never been in this one range throughout the past year. Almost never. I've almost traditionally been probably 50% in this 2, 25% in this 3, and 25% in this intuitive eating where I'm not tracking anything. And I've done fine. I gained weight appropriately. I lost weight appropriately when I needed to. So don't think like you need to be in this one range, right? So hopefully this model helped you guys. Again, the point of it, the point I wanted to share, not the reason I made it up, I didn't make it up, but I thought it's a very cool way to systematize diet adherence for flexible dieters. I think it almost has a rap that, oh yeah, it's flexible dieting, so people don't have trouble like adhering to it. But at the same time, sticking within a macronutrient range, even though you can kind of eat whatever you want, is not easy, right? When you go out to eat with friends, chicken wings has like 50 grams of fat in it. That's not like easily fit into most macro programs, right? Macro coaching, just kidding. But my point here being, even a flexible diet is restricted. Any diet's gonna have to be restricted if you want to see some sort of progress. So understanding you don't need to be in this one range all the time to see progress is very beneficial psychologically, so you don't feel like you're off your diet when you're in this 2 range. You can make a ton of progress in this 2 range. I've made almost all of my progress the past year in this 2 to 3 to 3+ range, okay? And then as you get more serious with your goals, right? So maybe if you're a year out from your show, you can be in this 3 range, and then you're 6 months out from your show, move up to this 2 range, okay? Contest prep starts, need to be sitting in this 2 to 1 range, right? Same thing as a power lifter. If you're not doing a meet for 8 months, you can probably be in this intuitive eating plan. If you have, a healthy relationship with food, and then as you prep, you need to make a weight class, you probably need to be 1 or 2. But the idea that you need to be in the 1 or even the 1 and 2 year round, if you're just kind of a recreational lifter or something, is absurd. You can maybe set your 1 as 5 days of the week, and then your weekends can be 3s or something as far as diet adherence. And again, just really big thank you to Eric Helms for systematizing that approach. I know it's incredibly helpful for me. I know it's going to be incredibly helpful for my clients, and I hope you guys can take something from this as well. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions about it, feel free to ask them in the comments or go like me on Facebook. Oh, go visit my website, myobrain.squarespace.com, and read all my cool articles about sensory deprivation and lifting heavy weights and eating cheesecake.